Everyone in the village of Drell knew the rule: do not enter the forest when your heart is heavy. But grief has no sense of timing. So when Myra's mother died and the ground beneath her soul split in two, she wandered into the trees, shoulders trembling, eyes glassy, and the forest opened its arms. The next morning, they found her body torn apart, yet untouched by claw or tooth, as if grief itself had pulled her limb from limb. And that's when we learned, the forest doesn't kill with fangs. It feeds. Drell sat like a bruise at the edge of the Karen forest. Mist rolled through its thatched roofs each morning like breath from the woods. The people were kind enough, but quiet. They had learned to keep their tempers and bite their tongues, not out of politeness, but survival. Because every so often, the trees claimed someone. Not the cheerful ones. Not the hopeful. Only those who carried something bitter inside: rage, grief, envy. And the forest smelled it. A boy once kicked a dog to death in anger. 3 nights later, they found only his teeth by the creek. A mother cursed her infant for never sleeping. The baby lived. She didn't. It wasn't natural. Everyone knew it. They called it the balance. Feed the forest your sadness, the elders would whisper, and it feeds on you. So we learned to pretend. We laughed louder than we meant, smiled longer than we felt. But under that facade, the pressure grew. I didn't believe any of it, until the year my brother died. Elias and I were inseparable, 2 halves of the same storm. When he drowned beneath the iced-over lake at 13, I felt it in my chest before they pulled him out. Something in me tore wide open. I stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. I screamed into pillows and punched the barn walls until my knuckles split. But never in public. Not once. My parents made sure of it. Be strong, my father would say through clenched teeth. The forest is always watching. So I learned to smile through the ache. I practiced happiness like it was a dance. My eyes were hollow, but my mouth knew its part. Still, some nights I swore I saw things in the trees. Shadows that moved against the wind. Fingers too long to be branches. Whispers that vibrated in my ribs, saying, "We see you. We know. Come closer." There was one exception to the silence. A ritual performed every equinox, a night where the village would light lanterns, dance, and bleed the sadness out. They called it the purge, a chance to release your pain in controlled bursts. Villagers would write confessions, regrets, fears, then burn them in a communal fire at the forest's edge. And it worked. Mostly. Because this year, I met someone new. Lisa. Lisa moved into the village from the mountains. Strange girl, hair like copper wire, eyes sharp as obsidian. She laughed when people warned her about the forest. It doesn't feed on sadness, she said. It feeds on lies. I should have walked away. Should have reported her to the elders. But there was something magnetic about her. She saw people. Not the masks, not the rehearsed cheer them. With her, I didn't have to pretend. We began meeting at dusk, walking the border of the woods. Sometimes, she'd hum melodies I'd never heard, songs that made the leaves stir, even when the wind slept. Once, I swore I saw eyes open in the bark, watching her. And she smiled at them. "Don't fear them," she told me. "They're not evil. They're hungry. There's a difference." One night, a merchant from Drell vanished. His wife said he'd been drunk, muttering about how unfair his life was. 2 days later, a child disappeared, after a tantrum in the square. By the end of the week, 5 more were gone. All had something in common: they'd let their guard down. Panic gripped Drell. Elders enforced the silence. No crying, no anger, no expression of grief or despair. Laughter filled the streets like forced music. "They're starving it," she whispered to me one night. "Starving the forest of truth. That's when it turns violent." That night, we kissed. Just once. But I felt something shift, like the air thickened around us, as if we just disturbed a delicate balance. I stopped pretending after that. I couldn't. Not with her voice in my head, telling me it was okay to feel. I wept openly at Elias's grave. I broke down mid-sentence at the market. And soon after, I started hearing the whispers again. Stronger this time. Come closer. Tell us. Show us. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt, understood. I wandered into the trees one night, not far, just the edge. They greeted me with silence. Then came the figures, tall, spindly things with hollow faces, black eyes like dying stars. I expected to be torn apart. Instead, they knelt, tilted their heads. One leaned forward, touched my chest, and I felt something warm drain from me, a pain I'd buried for years. It was like an exhale after holding my breath too long. When I told Lisa, she smiled. They don't feed on negative emotions, she said. They feed on what we hide. The forest's truth. Drell had it backwards. It wasn't grief or anger that killed people, it was the suppression of it. The denial. The deceit. The monsters of the forest weren't executioners. They were mirrors. When a person became too warped by repression, the monsters came, not to kill them, but to release what was killing them from within. But sometimes, the damage was too deep. The release too violent. That's when people died. Lisa said the forest was once in balance, when the villagers shared their pain, rather than hiding it. But generations of fear and superstition turned that honesty into shame. And shame rots the soul. She told me we could fix it. But the elders had other plans. The purge, reimagined. During the equinox, the villagers gathered once again at the edge of the forest. Fire blazed high. Papers burned in the pit. Everyone smiled through their teeth. Lisa stepped into the firelight. And she spoke. She called out the ritual as a lie. Said the forest would never stop hunting them until they stopped lying to themselves. That the only way to survive was to face the truth aloud, not write it on paper and pretend it was gone. They called her a witch. A monster. A forest bride. The elders demanded silence. I stepped forward. And I screamed. I screamed for Elias, for the years of numbness, for every forced laugh, every faked joy. The crowd stood stunned as I broke down. Then someone else cried. Then another shouted. One man dropped to his knees and howled for his lost son. The forest stirred. Figures emerged, not to attack, but to watch. Their heads tilted. A single one stepped forward, knelt, and placed its hand on the ground. Flowers bloomed instantly. All except around the elders, who stood motionless, lips pursed, hearts hard. The creatures turned to them. And one by one they fell, no blood, no sound. Just silence. A final silence. The forest does not tolerate false peace. The twist, a terrible cycle. Months passed. Drell changed. Laughter became real again. So did the tears. The village thrived. But the forest was still watching. And then one night, Lisa vanished. I searched. I begged. I screamed her name until my throat bled. Days later, I found her in the woods, eyes wide, body cold. Her mouth was open, as if in shock. She had kept something from me. A pain I never saw. A truth she never spoke. And the forest took her. Because that's the real rule. Not don't go in when you're sad. Not don't feel. Not even don't lie. The forest only feeds on secrets. And no one, not even Lisa, can keep one forever.
If you like my videos, like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more.